Welcome to my channel. Subscribe, listen, and enjoy my stories every day. The chilly morning air did nothing to soothe my troubled mind as I stood by my kitchen window, the warmth of my coffee cup barely registering in my hands. It had been 3 weeks since Laura, my wife of 5 years, had walked out of our home, and ostensibly out of my life, with nothing more than a duffel bag and a cold goodbye. The revelation of her infidelity had shattered the quiet routine of our marriage like a stone through glass. My phone buzzed on the counter, a message lighting up the screen. It was from Laura. A knot tightened in my stomach as I read her words, my pulse quickening with a mix of dread and curiosity. "Jack, we need to talk. It's urgent. I'm pregnant." Pregnant. The word echoed in my mind, hollow and surreal. With trembling hands, I typed a response, asking for proof, expecting denial or silence. Moments later, a picture followed, a pregnancy test, 2 distinct lines boldly declaring the news. "I need $500 for an abortion. If you don't help, you'll be paying a lot more in child support," her next message read, stark and unfeeling. Anger and confusion warred within me as I read her blunt ultimatum. Despite everything, a part of me wanted to believe she needed help. Maybe this was our twisted path to closure. I transferred the money without another word, the digital numbers ticking away what remained of our joint savings. Weeks passed, the incident weighing on me like a bad debt. Then, one evening, while nursing a drink at a local bar, I overheard a conversation between 2 men at the next table. The story they shared was eerily familiar: a woman, a fake pregnancy test, a demand for money. The description matched Laura perfectly. Burning with a mix of betrayal and vindication, I confronted them, sharing my own story. The pieces clicked together, forming a picture of deceit far uglier than I had imagined. Laura had been scamming multiple men, using fake pregnancy tests as her con. The revelation was a catalyst. Something dark and resolute settled over me. I was done being a victim. Laura had taken advantage of my trust, my love, and my wallet, but she wouldn't get away with it any longer. With renewed purpose, I left the bar that night, the outlines of a plan taking shape in my mind. I would expose her lies, ensure that no one else could be her victim. This was more than just revenge, it was justice. As I walked home under the starless sky, my resolve hardened. I would divorce Laura, expose her deceit to the world, and reclaim my life from the shadows of her betrayal. I would make sure she regretted ever thinking she could manipulate me. The morning light spills through the blinds of my office, casting long shadows across the floor as I sit, waiting for the first of my allies in this unexpected battle. The door opens, and Tom, a burly man in his late 30s, steps in. I know him from the bar, one of Laura's victims, his face set in a grim line that mirrors my own determination. "Jack, thanks for calling this meeting," Tom grunts as he takes a seat, his eyes wary yet hopeful. I nod, "Thank you for coming. We've both been played by Laura, and I believe there are more of us. We need to expose her, not just for us, but to prevent her from doing this to anyone else." Tom's fist clenches, "Count me in. What's the plan?" Before I can reply, the door opens again, admitting a younger man, Mark, whose haunted eyes speak of sleepless nights. I'd reached out to him after Tom had provided his contact, another name on Laura's list of deceived. "Mark, thank you for joining us," I say as he nods silently, taking a place beside Tom. We start by gathering all the evidence, texts, emails, any interactions with Laura that can prove her deceit, I explain, spreading out copies of messages and bank statements on the table. The others follow suit, their own records painting a damning portrait of manipulation. "We need legal advice," Mark suggests, his voice shaky but firm. "And maybe we should go to the media. It could pressure her to come clean." Tom agrees. "I know a lawyer, specializes in fraud cases. I'll talk to him today. And I have a contact at the local news," I add, feeling the pieces of our plan lock into place. We can set up an interview, expose her publicly. Our meeting stretches into hours as we forge our strategy, the room thick with plots of legal battles and media exposure. As we wrap up, our alliance solidified by shared betrayal and a thirst for justice, my phone buzzes. I glance at the screen, a text from an unknown number. Jack, you're messing with things you don't understand. Back off or you'll regret it. Chills run down my spine as I show the message to the group. Looks like Laura's catching on. Or someone's warning us off. Tom's jaw sets, let them try to stop us. We're doing the right thing. As they leave, the weight of our undertaking settles over me, but so does a strange sense of camaraderie. We are united, not just by our pain, but by our resolve to fight back. The game is set, the players are ready, and I am at the center, the orchestrator of Laura's downfall. As the sun dips below the horizon, casting my office into shadows, I feel the first true spark of hope in weeks. We will bring her down, together. The air is electric with tension as I enter the dimly lit cafe where we've agreed to confront Laura. Mark and Tom flank me, their presence a solid reassurance as we scan the crowded space. My heart races, each beat a drumroll to the impending showdown. There she is, Mark mutters, nodding toward a corner booth where Laura sits alone, sipping her coffee, oblivious to the storm heading her way. We approach silently, our footsteps muffled by the chatter around us. As we reach the table, Laura looks up, her expression shifting from surprise to a guarded wariness. Jack, what a surprise, she says coolly, setting down her cup with a clink. Laura, we need to talk. It's about the pregnancy tests, I state firmly, my voice cutting through the noise of the cafe. Her eyes flicker to Tom and Mark, a flash of fear betraying her composed facade. I don't know what you're talking about, she retorts, but her voice trembles. Tom leans forward, his voice low and menacing. Cut the act, Laura. We know everything. The fake tests, the demands for money, it ends now. Laura's gaze darts around, seeking an escape. You have no proof, she hisses, but the panic is evident. Mark pulls out his phone, placing it on the table. We have all the proof we need. Texts, bank transactions, and more than one damning testimony from your other victims. Seeing her cornered, I feel a surge of adrenaline. We've already spoken to a lawyer, Laura. And the media knows. It's only a matter of time before your scams are public knowledge. Laura's face pales, her usual confidence dissolving. You wouldn't dare, she whispers. We already have. It's done, Laura, I reply, my resolve steeling. You can make this easier on yourself by coming clean now. Maybe then, the court will be more lenient. For a moment, she is silent, her mind racing. Finally, she slumps back, defeated. What do you want from me? Full confession, in writing, to the police, Tom demands. And you return the money to all your victims. Laura nods slowly, the fight draining out of her. Okay, I'll do it. Just please, don't destroy my life. We aren't the ones who did that, Laura. You chose this path yourself, I say, the bitterness of the past mingling with a tinge of relief at her capitulation. As we stand to leave, Laura calls out, Jack, I'm sorry. I truly am. I pause, looking back at her, the woman I once loved now just a stranger. Sorry doesn't change what you did, Laura. Goodbye. We exit the cafe, the weight of the past months beginning to lift. Outside, the sun breaks through the clouds, casting long shadows behind us. The battle is not over yet, but today marks a victory, not just for us, but for justice. As we part ways, I feel a flicker of hope. Maybe now, with Laura facing the consequences of her actions, we can all start to move on, rebuild from the wreckage she left behind. The courtroom buzzes with a subdued energy as I take my seat, my heart pounding with a mix of anticipation and anxiety. Today is the day Laura faces the consequences of her actions in front of a judge. Beside me, Tom and Mark sit rigidly, their faces masks of stoic resolve. As Laura is led in, handcuffed and pale, a murmur ripples through the gathered crowd. She avoids our gazes, her eyes fixed on the floor as she takes her place at the defendant's stand. The judge calls the room to order, and the silence that follows is palpable. "We are here to address the charges of fraud and extortion against Ms. Laura Harper," he announces. The proceedings begin with the prosecutor outlining Laura's scheme, detailing each piece of evidence with methodical precision. Just as it seems the tide is irrevocably turning against Laura, her lawyer stands, asking permission to present a new piece of evidence. A murmur of curiosity stirs as he hands a sealed envelope to the judge. "What is this?" the judge inquires, eyebrows raised. "Proof of a conspiracy against my client, Your Honor," the lawyer declares, and the courtroom erupts in whispers and gasps. I exchange a glance with Tom and Mark, confusion and suspicion knotting my stomach. The judge examines the documents inside the envelope, his expression growing increasingly grave. "It appears," he begins, silencing the room with his solemn tone, "that there is evidence suggesting that the accusations against Ms. Harper might be part of a retaliatory campaign by the complainants, motivated by personal grievances rather than factual evidence." Shock courses through me, my mind reeling. "That's impossible." I stand up, my voice ringing out before I can stop myself. "Mr. Harper, please remain silent," the judge admonishes, and I sink back down, my heart racing. Laura's lawyer proceeds to outline a narrative so craftily woven that it casts doubt over everything. According to him, the pregnancy tests were real, but miscarriages followed, and the demands for money were desperate acts of a woman scorned and abandoned. The documents purport to show medical records confirming the pregnancies, and messages from an anonymous source suggesting that we, the accusers, had plotted her downfall out of spite. The courtroom feels stifling as the judge announces a recess for deliberation. I sit frozen, trying to process the twist that threatens to undo everything. Outside, under the heavy sky, I confront Tom and Mark. "Did either of you fabricate evidence?" I demand, the foundation of our alliance suddenly shaky. "Of course not." Tom retorts, his face flushed with anger. "She's playing us, Jack. It's another lie." Mark nods vigorously, "She's manipulating everyone, even now. We have to stick together." When the judge returns, the tension is palpable. After careful consideration, I find the evidence against Ms. Harper inconclusive and tainted by potential malice, he declares. The charges will be dismissed. The courtroom dissolves into chaos, but all I hear is the ringing in my ears. Laura meets my gaze for the first time, a smug triumph in her eyes that chills me to the bone. Outside the courthouse, the skies open, rain pouring down as if in mourning. I watch as Laura walks away, free and vindicated, disappearing into the throng of the city. The betrayal cuts deeper than her initial deceit, leaving a scar that will never fully heal. As I stand there, soaked and defeated, I realize the battle I thought we fought for justice was tainted by lies and manipulation, not just from Laura, but within the very fabric of what I believed was true. Tom and Mark part ways with me, each of us isolated in our own turmoil. The truth of Laura's machinations, whether she was truly guilty or we were misled, lingers like an unsolved riddle. As I walk away, the city around me blurs into a tapestry of gray, the echoes of betrayal and lost trust melding into the rain. Laura had won, not by proving her innocence, but by sowing enough doubt to keep us forever questioning what was real and what was yet another layer of her deceit.